Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
I want to welcome everyone to Congregation Beth Tikva. I know that many of you have traveled from not only near but very far, and so we're very lucky that you are all here tonight to celebrate what is truly a wonderful occasion in the lives of our congregational family. There is really something special to celebrate an adult Bnai Mitzvah class. Not only an adult Bnai Mitzvah class of the 12 individuals that you see on the bima, but most of the 13 individuals who are here who celebrated last week. We had 25 students in our adult Bnai Mitzvah class. So I want to welcome everyone to Congregation Beth Tikva. My name is Rabbi Rick Kellner, and tonight I'm joined on the bima
Cindy Leland.
And on piano, Julie Sapper. And tonight we are going to begin welcoming Shabbat with the words of Hine ma tovu manayim. They can be found in our Sidurim, our prayer books, on page 10. How wonderful it is to be able to sit together as brothers, as sisters, as friends. The top of page 10.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
There is a great story from the Talmud about how the government in Rome issued a law that forbid all the Jews to study and practice the Torah. And a gentleman came upon the great Rabbi Akiva, who had publicly gathered Jews and was teaching them Torah together. And this gentleman said, "Akiva, are you not afraid of the government?" And Akiva replied, "I'm going to explain to you with a story. There once was," and this is in the Talmud, "there once was a fox who was walking alongside the river who saw fish going in swarms from one place to the other. And the fox said to the fish, 'From what are you fleeing?' And they replied, 'From the nets cast for us by people.' And the fox then said to the fish, 'Would you like to come upon dry land so that you and I can live together in the way that my ancestors lived with your ancestors?' The fish looked puzzled, and they replied, 'Are you the one they call the cleverest of animals? You are not clever, but foolish. If we are afraid in the element in which we live, how much more so in the element in which we would die? And so it is with us.'" This is the story of the Jewish people. If we are at risk when we sit and we study Torah, if we neglect Torah, how much worse off shall we be? So what happened to Rabbi Akiva, you wonder? He was arrested and thrown in prison. But Debbie Friedman has a beautiful explanation for this story. She wrote that Torah for the Jews is like water for the fish. Torah becomes personal when we make it personal. Torah is so important in our lives. But when we ask the question, how is Torah in your life? We think about it as for us to study. It is a way to act. It can be a view, a worldview. It can be all of that and more. So the question we ask ourselves is, how is Torah in our lives? And the 25 students of our adult Bnai Mitzvah class have made Torah their lives. One of the beautiful things that I was once taught is that Torah is more than what's contained in the scrolls that we keep in our Aron HaKodesh. Torah is more than the books, the Sfarim, that fill our libraries. Torah is our lives when we put it into action. And so each of our adult Bnai Mitzvah students have lived Torah. They've learned Torah. They've acted Torah. And we'll hear from them tonight how their journeys, their stories are indeed Torah. I'd like to now call upon a representative from our Board of Trustees, Doris Sterling, to share with us some words of welcome and some announcements.
My name is Doris Sterling. I'm fundraising chair for the board. I want to welcome all of the families and guests this evening as we celebrate and truly honor the accomplishment of this adults B'nai Mitzvah class. Mazel tov to each one of you. So proud of all of you. Wow. Last week's class invites everyone to celebrate the Oneg dessert reception at the end of the service. They have provided it for you. Many thanks go to our temple administrator, Debbie Van Oker, our staff, Rachel, Joanne, and Rachel, and our wonderful custodial team for their hard work to make this evening a success, and to the ritual committee and our greeters for their warm welcome. Now I invite each one of you to turn to your neighbor, turn to one another, introduce yourselves, and wish one another a Shabbat Shalom.
I'd now like to invite Valia Bergelson to light and bless our Shabbat candles. We turn in our prayer books to page 2.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת. אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
See, they were even learning last week. So what they just said was, and I'll invite you to repeat after me, Yasher, Koach, which means good job. Not the direct translation. It actually means something a little different. But in our context, it means may you have strength, essentially. May you walk a path of strength. But in our context, and when someone does something at a Shabbat service, whether it's give a teaching or read the Torah or actually lead a service, you would say to the person after they do that, Yasher Koach. And so we'll practice now. Let's all try it. Yasher Koach. Perfect. We are going to continue now as we welcome Shabbat with the words of Psalm 96. We are going to turn in our Sidurim, our prayer books, to page 344 for the words Shir Chadash, as we sing unto God, all the earth, a new song, Shiru Ladonai, Kol Haaretz.
Shiru Adonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Adonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Adonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Adonai, Shir Chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai, Kol Haaretz. Shiru Adonai, Shir Chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
Throughout our service, we will hear words of personal journey, but what it took for each of the individuals to make it to this moment. Each journey is unique. Each journey is a journey to be celebrated and treasured. And what is amazing is that each journey started from different points at different times in our lives, but together, the 25 students of our class found their journey from wherever they have been journeying from to these 2 weeks, to this year, to celebrate this journey together. So now I'd like to invite Arlene Levy, followed by Sharon Chelnick, to share their words.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Our Torah portion this week is from Shalach Lecha, Numbers 13, 16, 14, 7. And God said to Moses, "Send a leader, a spy, from each of the 12 tribes of Israelites. Send these spies to scout out the land of Canaan." And so it was. After 40 days, the spies returned to the desert, but with vastly different stories. Most say the land is barren, dry, and heavily fortified, with huge soldiers who will surely kill the Israelites. But Joshua and Caleb, they had a different story. They said Canaan was truly a land of milk and honey, bringing bunches of grapes, figs, and all manner of other plants to show the peoples as proof of what they had found. The Israelites were confused and frightened, first hearing one story and then the other. They protested against Moses and shouted, "Let us go back to Egypt." And God is angered at their thoughts of disobeying his orders, and he said, "You must stay in the desert and repent." And so they stayed in the desert for 40 years. By that time, many were too old and fragile to make the trip, so only the younger people and their children, abiding by words of God, went forth and were able to reach the promised land, conquered the armies in Canaan, and made a homeland for the Israelites. And so it was. Although I was born Jewish, the journey to my promised land, this day of my bat mitzvah, began when I was 13 years old, and my Moses was Sarah Brilliant, a significant, influential, and loving woman. She truly became my mom when I married her son David just 7 years later. Because of Sarah, I experienced all manner of everything Jewish: amazing family Shabbat dinners, services at the synagogue, and the celebration of more religious holidays than anyone else I ever knew. We were really good at declaring holidays in that day. I celebrated these Jewish holidays for the first time in my life, and with great joy. And so it was. My journey continued. David and I, together with our first daughter, Robin, moved to Worthington, Ohio in 1958. And again, because of Sarah, we became an active part of the Jewish community at Hillel. In 1961, we joined with 9 other couples and founded Congregation Beth Tikvah. And our family was, from then on, immersed in Judaism and the Jewish community 24/7. David was the first president of Congregation Beth Tikvah, and Tikvah Topics was born on our dining room table, the top of which was not seen again for at least 3 years, except to celebrate one of those wonderful holidays. Then came more children, 4 in all, and with them came Sunday school, Hebrew school, bar and bat mitzvahs. All the while, a seed was growing in my head, the flower being the thought that one day I would be a bat mitzvah. These past 9 months have been a great joy to me. As I studied with my dear classmates, we gained the ability to read Hebrew and learn much about Israel, its beginnings, and the Israel of today. And we supported and encouraged each other, applauding every achievement. What a warm and caring group of people. I am privileged to have gotten to know all of you, and I will always feel a special bond to you. So here we are, happily having achieved our goal and proudly enjoying that achievement, our special evening. To each and every one of my classmates, as well as the other half of the class of 25 who had their Bnai Mitzvah last Shabbat, I say bravo, we made it. Rabbi Kellner and Marissa, thank you for passing on your knowledge of the history of the Jews and of Israel then and now. You have inspired me to continue my studies in these areas. I'm hoping for more classes in the philosophies of the Reform movement and the current events of Israel. I've not been given enough speaking time to express to you, Valia, my feelings. You made the journey toward our Bnei Mitzvot an easy trip with your ability to teach us Hebrew with patience and dedication, and by lovingly giving us so many more hours than ever were part of your contract time. In class, when some of us were nervously waiting for our turn to read our homework or some new sentences or words, you always came up with some great levity that softened the anxiety. I wonder if in one of your lifetimes you were a stand-up comic. You were so good at it. I hope you might consider teaching a continuing ed class in Hebrew so that those of us who want to continue our learning can avail ourselves of this opportunity. I'd be the first in line to join up. Thank you so much, Valia. You get the Teacher of the Year award in my book. I would be remiss if I ended without expressing my thanks to you, Jean, wherever you are, for all of the contributions you made that helped me arrive at this momentous day. Not the least of these was the patience and tolerance as I went around the house chanting my Torah portion at least 200 times a day for all these many months. Making all the flashcards was not easy. You listened to me read, and you chauffeured me back and forth each Monday evening. You are the best. Well, that's it. That's my story, except to say, because of the efforts of everyone I have mentioned, I surely have reached my land of milk and honey. It took a bit more than 40 years, but it was quite a trip. And to that I say, Amen. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. Life is a journey, not a destination. A famous quote, but one I can relate to as I have strived to figure out who I am as a Jew and what it means to me. My religious journey began when I was in 6th grade and started attending Sunday school at Temple Emmanuel. My parents joined a Reformed congregation so my younger brother could start to prepare for his bar mitzvah, the first in many generations of our extended family of socialist cultural Jews to do so. I actually liked going to Sunday school, learning about Judaism, and the feeling of community. At the same time, I felt inadequate because I didn't know Hebrew, the prayers or the songs that everyone else knew. Through the years, as I continued exploring who I was as a Jew, I was confirmed, studied Hebrew in high school, and was active in BBYO. Before my senior year of high school, I traveled to Israel for the first time with other high school students on a program sponsored by the Cleveland Jewish Federation. Later, I returned to study at Hebrew University during my junior year of college. Convincing my parents to let me go was no easy feat. My agnostic father had no clue why I wanted to study in Israel. He tried in vain to convince me to study in Luxembourg through Miami University's study abroad program. My mother couldn't fathom that I would be gone for a full year, able only to communicate through the ancient mechanism of letters and occasional predetermined phone calls set up weeks in advance. Living in Israel, exploring the country, experiencing Shabbat in Jerusalem, and just living day-to-day life as a Jew was an amazing spiritual experience. Of course, there were my studies, and I even had my first exposure to the Talmud. When I returned to the States, I felt more connected to my Jewish roots than before. I continued to light Shabbat candles and ate kosher style for the next 5 years. And then my life took another turn. I met and married my wonderful husband of almost 30 years. But he was Catholic, and as we began our lives together, more soul searching began. How to celebrate holidays, how to raise children. None of these decisions came easily to us. In the end, we made many sacrifices and compromises. Eventually, our daughters, Hannah and Rebecca, were raised Jewish. They went to the JCC North Preschool and were confirmed at Beth Tikva. And as they learned about Judaism, I continued to learn too. Through my children, I reconnected with Jewish learning, experiencing Shabbat and a sense of community, which I found at the JCC North Preschool and later at Beth Tikva. When the opportunity to join Beth Tikva's Bnai Mitzvah class came up, I hesitated. I was worried it might be too difficult. What if I was the only one who couldn't chant their Torah portion? Also, Hannah and Rebecca and I had talked about doing our Bnai Mitzvah together someday. But Hannah had made Aliyah and was living in Tel Aviv. Rebecca was graduating from college this year, and who knew where she would be? In the end, they gave me their blessing. And so, like the Israelites in our Torah portion, Lech Lecha, I journeyed on, relearning Hebrew, learning about the prayers, how to study the Talmud, and thinking about the many different aspects of Judaism and what they mean to me. With this Bnai Mitzvah class, I have felt not only a huge sense of accomplishment for what I have learned, but have also found a wonderful, caring community among my Bnai Mitzvah classmates, thank you, in which to learn and to continue to grow. Now for my thank yous. Hopefully I can get through them. To Valia, my sincerest thanks and appreciation to you for your support and encouragement and the extra help you devoted to our Bnai Mitzvah class, and also for making the class so much fun. All I can say is, thank goodness you and I chant in the same key. I can't imagine mastering my Torah portion without listening to the CD of your voice over and over and over again. To Rabbi Kellner and Marissa, thank you for your devotion, your insight into the prayers and teachings, your enthusiasm for learning, and especially for encouraging us all to express ourselves in class. I look forward to many years of learning with the two of you. To the JCC preschool moms and Debbie, for the past 20+ years, we have celebrated holidays and family milestones together as we watched our children grow into amazing young adults. Thank you for your friendship, the laughter, and your support along the way. To my sister Judy, my brother Bruce, and his family, thank you for traveling to Columbus to help celebrate with me. I really appreciate it. To Chris, I know it hasn't always been easy for you, excuse me, but you've always been a great support throughout the years, especially this past year when I came home late on Monday evenings and at other times when I went off alone to study Hebrew and do my homework. I really appreciate your encouragement and especially for your understanding that I did not want a theme party. I love you. To Hannah and Rebecca, thank you for your support and for believing in me. I feel blessed to have had this experience, and hope that if you choose to become a bat mitzvah someday, you will enjoy the journey as much as I have. Embrace who you are as individuals and as Jews as you continue to learn and evolve through your lives. I dedicate my bat mitzvah to the two of you. Thank you.
I neglected to mention this last week, but realized about halfway through that none of the classmates have heard any of the words that are spoken tonight, which I think is really a very special thing to hear for each person, that throughout the two Shabbatot that we've celebrated together, we continue to be inspired, and they are continuing to learn the journeys from one another. We are going to continue with our prayers welcoming Shabbat on pages 20 and 21. We'll sing the words of Lecha Dodi as we welcome the Shabbat bride, and we'll sing verses 1, 2, and 9. 1, 2, and 9, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamo v'zocho b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad u'shamo echad, V'shem u'tiferet ve'elitila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki hi mekor ha'beracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Bnei Shabbat la boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala bnei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala bnei Shabbat nekabela.
May be seated. I'd like to invite Evie Freeman, followed by Susan Pomerantz, to share words of their journey.
Shabbat Shalom. Bat Mitzvah, daughter of the commandment. This ceremony traditionally occurs when a girl turns 13 and signifies her acceptance of the roles and responsibilities of a Jewish adult. In 1922, Judith Kaplan became the first girl in the United States to celebrate a bat mitzvah. Judith was the daughter of Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan, the founder of Reconstructionist movement. Rabbi Kaplan wanted to give girls equal standing with boys and encourage Jewish education for women. However, Judith did not have an aliyah. She did not stand on the bima. She did not read from the Torah scroll. Instead, she read from her personal Bible. So, while her ceremony was certainly a breakthrough for Jewish women, it was not equal to a boy's bar mitzvah. The journey of women's equality in Reform Judaism has been a long one. Reform congregations in the United States during the mid-19th century introduced group confirmation ceremonies for adolescent girls and boys upon completion of their formal religious education. In the 1950s, only 1/3 of Reform congregations offered girls the opportunity for a bat mitzvah. My Reform congregation in Cleveland, Ohio, was not one of them. So I did not have the option of a bat mitzvah. Confirmation was a significant milestone in our congregation, and I was very proud to be confirmed. Our congregation was very large, about 2,000 families, and it did offer a post-confirmation high school program that I attended. Often during my high school years, people asked me if I had ever thought about becoming a rabbi. But there were no women Reform rabbis in the 1960s, so this did not seem a viable career path to even consider at that time. The Reform movement was the leader in opening the path to women, and in 1972, Sally Present was ordained as the first woman rabbi. Since Judith Kaplan's bat mitzvah in 1922, the equal role of women in Reform Judaism and the recognition of the important contribution of women to both religious and secular Jewish history have increased significantly. The bat mitzvah as a coming-of-age ritual for females is widely practiced today, and these ceremonies are now the same for males and females. Each of my daughters celebrated becoming a bat mitzvah here at Beth Tikva, reading from the Torah, chanting their Haftorah, and giving a short speech. I was in awe of them then, how diligently they both prepared, and the poise and confidence with which they conducted themselves. In the recognition of the strength of Jewish women, my wonderful daughters presented me with this beautiful talit called Matriarchs, which has the embroidered names of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Although the matriarchs of my own family were not well-known Jewish women, they inspired my own personal journey to this bat mitzvah day. I think of the courage and strength of my grandmothers. My maternal grandmother traveled by herself at the age of 16 from a small village in Lithuania to New York, speaking no English. My paternal grandmother, for whom I was named and who died when my father was a young man, crossed the Atlantic in steerage when she was 8 months pregnant with her first child. I always admired my mother, whose love of learning led her to return to college when I was an adolescent, and then return to the workforce and start a new career. My mother, a very kind and caring woman, a true woman of valor, instilled in me a respect for everyone and taught me to treat all people with dignity. I am proud to wear this matriarch tallit today as I publicly affirm my Jewish identity and commitment to my faith. As an adult Jewish woman, a mother, and a grandmother, I feel blessed to have the opportunity to become a daughter of the commandment and to carry on the tradition of Jewish women who came before me. I want to thank Rabbi Kellner, Marissa Freiberg, and of course Valia, who have made this bat mitzvah possible, my wonderful classmates, all of you, everywhere, who have ensured that this experience was indeed a joyous one, and my wonderful family who are here with me tonight, who have enthusiastically supported me on this journey.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As you've heard, this week's Torah portion is about how the Israelites were commanded to scout out a new land which they were promised. Many years ago, I took steps to scout out this new land for myself. On the advice of a fellow teacher, I went to speak with a rabbi at an Orthodox temple in my hometown. The rabbi was very gracious, and after a lengthy conversation, he looked at me and said, "I can see you're serious to learn about Judaism, but I can also see that orthodoxy is not in your plans. Here's the name of a very good Reformed rabbi. You should go speak to him, but don't tell him I sent you." That's true, he actually said that. So I did go speak to that rabbi, and eventually I converted just before Louis and I were married. Again, at the start of this Bnai Mitzvah class, I felt as though I was going through a similar experience, only now I was trying to learn a new language and delve more deeply into my adopted faith. As we began this class, it seemed as if I had set myself an unattainable goal. Like the men Moses sent to scout the new land, I too wanted to stay within my comfort zone. Many unknowns lay ahead. Was I up to the task? Would I understand? Would I be able to learn all I needed to? But like the sweet fruit of the land the scouts brought back to Moses, I too found many rewards. For me, these are the joy of learning, discovery of how I come to perceive God, learning Hebrew, beginning to learn Hebrew, thank you, Valia, finding my place within the Jewish community here in Beth Tikva, to say nothing of the friendships which have deepened and the new ones that have developed as a result of sharing our thoughts, joys, some sorrows, struggles, and accomplishments. My tree of life, Talit, represents this experience for me. The roots I have put down here at Beth Tikva, the strength and support of my family, the Beth Tikva community, which has enabled me to feel secure enough to reach out and continue to grow as a person and in my commitment to and understanding of Judaism. Unlike those sent out to scout the new land, I have no wish to go back to what was before. I'm ready to continue this journey with all of its promise for a good life ahead. To all of you who have been there for me along the way, with a special thank you to Valia, Rabbi Rick, and Marissa. As it says at the end of our Torah portion, it is good.
I'd like to invite everyone to turn to page 28 in your prayer books and to please rise as we share the words of the Baruch Hu.
Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
May be seated. I'd like to now invite Tara Rosen, followed by Joyce Sabger, to share words of their journey.
My Jewish values, handed down from my parents, were reinforced during the 7 summers I attended Goldman Union Camp. There I learned about the privilege and responsibility of being Jewish, in addition to how to act silly in front of people and how to make friendship bracelets out of string, also important skills. I developed lifelong friendships at Gucci, without whom I would definitely not be standing here today. For years, I have been an active member of our Beth Tikva Jewish community. Each year, I have grown as a Jew and as a person. Joining this adult Bnai Mitzvah class was the next logical step in my growing and expanding Jewish journey. I looked forward to the process, the learning, and the involvement that this sort of class would bring. From the first day of Hebrew class, Valia exuded way more confidence in us than we had in ourselves. She believed in our ability to eventually read Hebrew, learn vocabulary and trope, as well as to answer the seemingly endless questions about the many objects and people found and not found in the classroom. After each class, our heads were spinning and our brains were exhausted. We offered encouragement, empathy, and offers of help to our fellow classmates. And then each week, we watched silently and sometimes not so silently as we all became a little more fluent and a little more confident. The classes with Rabbi Rick and Marissa were thought-provoking, informative, and giving us time to focus on text, concepts, and even engage with Israel. I had no preconceived notions about how this experience would impact me. I thought it would be a good way to push myself forward in my own life journey, to share a special ceremony with friends, and to meet some of the congregants I didn't know. All of that happened. But I learned more than I thought I would, and I even found myself attending a few Saturday morning Torah studies, something I'd been too afraid to try in the past. My thirst for more Jewish learning had not been quenched, it had been ignited. For decades, I'd been taught that the studying of the Torah, learning through the text, and wrestling with every aspect of Judaism is a mitzvah and something we should all strive to do. It's clear to me now why Jewish learning truly is a lifelong journey and one I'm excited to be involved in. My Jewish journey started long ago, but more important now is the future. Today, I celebrate that I'm evolving as a Jew. The bat mitzvah is not the end of a journey or a class, it's the beginning of all new possibilities for learning enrichment. It may be Torah study, taking a class on prayers, learning conversational Hebrew, or some other topic I cannot foresee. I'm thankful for this opportunity and excited about where the next steps in this process will take me. It would have been much easier to embark on this journey as a child, not having to juggle my roles as wife, mother, businesswoman all at the same time. I would have learned my Torah portion, probably by listening to it repeatedly on a record player, written my devar, and danced all night at a big party thrown just for me. However, having a bat mitzvah as an adult has given me the opportunity to get questions answered I didn't even know existed when I was 13. This night has been made possible by Rabbi Rick, Valia, and Marissa, our fearless leaders. We are blessed to have such caring, funny, and intelligent educators at Beth Tikva. Thank you to them for their dedication and patience. Most bar and bat mitzvah speeches contain a thank you to their parents. I want to thank my parents, but not for driving me to and from Hebrew each week, nor for nagging me to practice chanting all the time. I want to thank my parents for their unconditional love and for being the role models that embody all of the values that I admire. You supported me in this endeavor and were always interested in hearing about my Monday night class. I know that you sit here proudly tonight along with my Nana. Nana, it means so much to me that you're here to share this day with me. To my sister, who took a weekend out of her crazy busy life to witness tonight's events. You spent a lot of years at camp and at school being known as Tara's little sister, and annoyingly following me around as little sisters do. But I have been honored to walk side by side with you through our adult lives, and there's really no words for what you mean to me. Thank you for being here. Lastly, I want to thank my sons, Adam and Chad, and my husband, Brad. Brad, for supporting my decision to add just one more thing to our crazy schedule as I prepared for this day. Whether I decide to plant a vegetable garden, start a business, or become a bat mitzvah, I've had your support. Your willingness to pick up some of the slack at home, or at least ignore it, has not only made this achievement possible, but given it even more meaning. Lastly, thank you to my classmates for all you have taught me. I hope this is not the end of our experience together, but just the beginning as we continue our commitment to Judaism at Beth Tikva. Thank you all. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. What brought me here tonight? This is my story. I was born to Jewish parents, knew from the start that I was Jewish, but we never practiced anything in our home. Never went to temple, no prayers, no Jewish holidays. Just one brief 6-month period when I was driven to a nearby army base for Sunday school. There was a reason for all this. My parents had come out of Germany and Italy during World War II. Many family members were lost, including my father's mother and sister. How could this have happened if there was a God? And why proclaim to the world that you were Jewish? Could it happen again? Consequently, no religion in my home. To add to this, I went to a huge high school where I was the only Jew in a graduating class of hundreds. I was tired of being the different one, and when looking for a college, the first thing I looked for was to be sure there was a Hillel. That meant I wouldn't be the only one again. That's when things changed. I made them change. I was in control. I joined a Jewish sorority, had my first Jewish friends, and met my Jewish husband-to-be. It was with his family in my sophomore year of college that I celebrated my first Hanukkah, and I still have my first Hanukkah present, a hand-crocheted nose warmer from my soon-to-be mother-in-law. It's true. It was at his uncle's home at age 20 that I attended my first Passover Seder, full length and kosher to boot. My Jewish wedding was one of the first that I ever attended. The rest is history, as they say. Raised my children Jewish, joined Beth Tikva 35 years ago, saw that my children had their bar and bat mitzvah, celebrated the Jewish holidays, and came to high holiday services. But there was still something missing when I was here. There was no meaning. I was and am proud to be Jewish, but it was all about the culture and the tradition. The religion was still missing. Remember, no one had really taught me about God. This year, as a Bnai Mitzvah, has helped complete the cycle and has added the religious piece. I've been in wonderful discussions about God and enjoyed reading Finding God by Sonsino and Syme. I learned that there were so many different ways to believe. It made me feel so much more comfortable about my own questions of God and prayer. I've learned to read Hebrew. I've learned to understand the meanings of the prayers by using the Ramas provided by Marissa. I've met so many wonderful people and feel like I belong here. Some of the Torah discussions were above my head, which made sense since I had never had the basics. I found a quick fix for this and started reading the basic Bible stories in the books used by the children in religious school. I drew a family tree starting with Abraham to help me understand. For years here at Beth Tikva, I was Dick Sapker's wife. Everyone knew Dick, his involvement here. Everyone knew Dick from his involvement here, but I did not have a Beth Tikva identity of my own. I can no longer say that. One person I have to thank for this is Doris Sterling. If she wasn't pushing, she was pulling. Hence, Shishim Planning Committee, garage sale, and every other fundraiser that she concocted along the way. Thank you, Dora. How quickly I gained my own identity. Very simply, the more you give, the more you receive. After all these years, I feel a warmth here that I didn't feel before. Better late than never. I want to apologize to my children for not understanding how hard they were working in their preparations for bar and bat mitzvah. I guess I needed to walk in your shoes. I'm very proud of my classmates. We finished 25 strong. What an accomplishment. The ex-teacher in me says, pat yourselves on the back. I want to thank Rabbi Rick for his help and for making such a warm, welcoming atmosphere here. Who wouldn't want to be here? And of course, Marissa and Valia for their time and dedication. Marissa helped with so many of the basics I needed, and Valia, who always kept one step ahead of us, so we were forced to stretch ourselves. Valia, your time and efforts and belief in us was so appreciated. Thank you to my family and friends for coming tonight in my honor, and to my son-in-law Mark for loaning me the tali we had given to him. Most of all, I want to thank Dick for his Hebrew help and support and sharing his Jewish family with me. I don't think he ever dreamt he'd see this day. Thank you.
We turn now to pages 34 and 35. I invite everyone to please rise as we join together in the words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
As we are seated, we turn in our Sidorim, our prayer books, to page 36. And I invite members of our adult Bnei Mitzvah class to lead us in the chanting of the Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol lavavka uvekol nafshecha uvekol beodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom alavavecha Veshinatam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shivtecha betecha uplektecha baderek ukshachaya ukumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha vehayu letotafot beineinecha Utavtam amuzuzot beiteka ubisharecha leman tizkaru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vihitem kedoshim lelohechem
Ani Adonai Elohem, Asher Hotzeiti Echem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Now I'd like to invite Nancy Schwartz to share words of her journey.
So I was so struck by the translation of the 2 lines of my little Torah portion that I will be chanting tonight. They read, quote, "The whole community broke into loud cries, and the people wept that night. All the Israelites railed against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in the land of Egypt," the whole community shouted at them. "Or if only we might die in the wilderness," exclamation point, end quote. I personally am familiar with this flavor of fear, lack of self-esteem, and panic that the Israelites are feeling in this moment. I too recognize that they are despairing and feel hopeless. They have taken at face value the very negative, very exaggerated perception given to them by the scouts, misleading them into believing that they can't go forward and conquer the land. They feel they don't have what it takes to create a new life and progress forward outside of a life of slavery or wandering in the wilderness. They allow themselves to be compared to the hardier, stronger people who haven't lived like slaves. They believe they don't have what it takes to succeed in the land of milk and honey, that they will not be able to farm the land, and think it will be disastrous for them to go forward rather than see it as a wonderful opportunity. They can't imagine how they might actually be able to improve things, protect themselves, or build a new thriving community. They are free, but they don't see that they will have the resources they need to deal with that freedom. They are so overwhelmed by the idea of failure with such a lack of confidence and a profound lack of faith. Wow. This reminds me, okay, not only a little bit of my own struggles and wanderings in the wilderness, but of how important it is to embrace the positive in spite of your fears and insecurities, to show up and act, sometimes as if, and to go forth with courage in the face of adversity, to not compare yourself to others, to choose to do good, or even good enough, and to create a positive new life, even when you might not feel like you can measure up or that you have what it takes, to let go of a complicated past and have the courage to start fresh and to always pay it forward when possible. My participation in this adult Bnai Mitzvah journey has very much been about just going for it. Going for it even when there was doubt and fear, going for it even if other goals haven't been met yet. It's been challenging for me to be a part of a big class. I am not the best team player, but it's been an honor to be a member of this class and to work with others for a common goal. Certainly, given how completely Hebrew illiterate I was, to learn to read and chant Hebrew from the Torah has been a true gift. To be able to deepen this rich Jewish identity that I have inherited from my ancestors, despite a background of just secular Jewish culture and non-observance, has been a bold choice for me, and one I am so grateful to have had the opportunity and the ability to take. I am so grateful for Congregation Beth Tikva and the opportunities you have given me. You have welcomed me and have made Jewish learning and practice accessible and meaningful to me. Each week on Friday nights, I take particular pause when we sing the words of the Misha Beirach prayer for healing. Help me find the courage to make my life a blessing. That has been my charge and my challenge, and it will continue to be as long as I don't allow myself to succumb to crippling doubt or self-defeating comparisons as the Israelites did. This requires courage, and we all know that to live with courage in spite of fear is a blessing. Speaking of blessings, this evening is also special to me as it is the yahrzeit of my great Aunt Evie, who I loved and missed dearly, and whose only daughter, my cousin Kathy, or Ketzel, as my grandma Honey sometimes called her, is here tonight from Las Vegas. It has been such a privilege to finally learn the words of the mourner's Kaddish for this evening. I will treasure this forever. I would like to dedicate this experience to the cherished memory of Aunt Evie and other loved ones who are no longer with us, including Sophie, and to my parents who are here, and that's no small feat. Even though I begged them not to come and tried to make the plug to just tune into the live stream. But they have traveled here, and even if they hadn't, I carry them with me, not just in my Hebrew name, which I had to figure out for this event and had no clue what it was, but it is Dova bat Binyamin Visera, named for my great-grandpa Ben Chazanoff, and I am the daughter of Ben and Susan. They have been tirelessly generous, supportive, and have managed to proudly accept this as an accomplishment rather than just another oddity in their adult daughter's unconventional life. I also want to say a shout out to friends and loved ones across the country who may have successfully tuned into the live stream. To this long live stream, I carry you with me even though I don't get to see you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and may we all be helped finding the courage to make our unique and wonderful lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen.
We continue with the words on page 40 of Micha Mocha, which perhaps reflect the celebration of this transformative collective experience that we collectively share as a Jewish people as we celebrate our freedom from bondage in Egypt, as Miriam and Moses and all of Israel sang these words at the shores of the Red Sea. Micha Mocha, page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. ימברי במ במ ביי ביי, ימברי במ במ ביי ביי, ים ביי ביי, ים ביי ביי, ים ביי במ במ ביי ביי. Yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum bye bye, yum bye bye, yum bum 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 bye. Adonai yimloch leolam vaed, leolam, leolam, leolam vaed. Yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum bye bye, yum bye bye, yum bum 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 bye. Yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum biddy bum bum bye bye, yum bye bye, yum bye bye, yum bum 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 bye.
I'd now like to invite Tricia Upchurch to share her words.
On this evening of Shabbat, I'm standing here on the bima before you because the Jewish 25% of me that I inherited from my paternal grandmother has been speaking to me since I can remember. And because, maybe in Jewish fashion, it would not take no for an answer. That voice has persisted in calling me over many years and through many life detours to seek and reclaim the Jewish heritage that is my birthright. I don't understand the how or why of that inner urging. I only know that I wanted to learn everything I could about Judaism and to be Jewish before I even learned of that quarter of my DNA, which happened in 1999. So I truly believe that becoming bat mitzvah today is something of a miracle. I was welcomed at Beth Tikva first by a dear Rabbi Huber, and then by many of you, had my conversion ceremony and became a member about 13 years ago. I love that symbolism. Today is the 13th. It's as though I was born into Judaism and this Jewish family at that time. And much as a Jewish child would, I spent those years learning and actually envying the young people as they celebrated their Bnai mitzvahs, hoping that someday I might also do so. To be honest, I seriously doubted whether I possessed the courage or the ability. But today, thanks be to Hashem, Rabbi Rick, and our teachers Marissa and Valia, that desire of my heart is being fulfilled. Before today, I've never worn a talit. On this Erev Shabbat, I do so humbly, reverently, and proudly. To wear this talit is symbolically to wrap myself in God's protection, in the love and support of this community, and in recognition of and gratitude to the generations of Jews who have worn talitot before me. This evening of Shabbat, I wear a kippah, humbly, reverently, and proudly. As I wear this kippah, I do so with awareness of the Shekinah presence of the Almighty, the light and love of God, above and around me. I wear it as a sign that I'm a member of this spiritual community, and in recognition of and gratitude to the generations of Jews who have worn kippot before me. When I started this class, I hoped to become more proficient in Hebrew and to learn to chant Torah, but it actually was not a certainty that I would be able to, due to a brain injury that I received in a car accident 2 years ago. If the only positive outcome had been that I regrew a few brain cells through the challenge of Hebrew study, then dayenu, it would have been enough. And this event maybe would have been postponed to a future day. Happily, while it has been challenging, my expectations and hopes have become a reality. Although I still have a lot more to learn about Hebrew and chanting Torah. A big surprise and bonus for me has been the closeness with my classmates that I feel as a result of sharing this experience. I confess that I tend to be shy and a little bit of a loner. But after laughing with each other as our tongues tripped over themselves in Hebrew class, after sitting quietly listening to each other's life stories, after vigorously discussing points of Jewish theology and mission, after supporting and praising each other as we, with fear and trembling, made our first shaky attempts at chanting Torah, it has been an amazing bonding experience. I feel honored and privileged to have shared it with all of you, my fellow Bnai Mitzvot. And one more thank you. I would be remiss if I did not publicly acknowledge and thank my husband, Robert, first. For his unshakable support and encouragement for every goal that I set. And second, for taking over the chore of after-dinner kitchen cleanup on so many Monday evenings while I attended class. Thank you, honey. Of course, he's also responsible for my completely un-Jewish last name, right? What are you gonna do? Thank you for your kind attention, and Shabbat Shalom.
We turn in our prayer books to page 44 as we sing of the sacred moment which continues to bring our people together. We speak and sing of the covenant of Shabbat as we share together the beautiful melody of Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ומה
We turn in our prayer books to page 46. On the following pages, we'll join together in the words of the Amidah. On pages 46, 48, 50, and 52, we'll join together aloud. And then we'll continue silently through page 62, using the words either on the right side of the page, the even-numbered pages, or the words on the left side of the page, the odd-numbered pages, or any combination of the two, or if you so choose, I invite you to close the books when we pray silently, and let the words of your heart guide you in prayer. Whatever you choose, we'll meet again on page 62 with the words of Oseh Shalom. And so now I'd like to invite some of the members of our adult Bnei Mitzvah class to lead us on pages 46, 48, 50, and 52. And I'd like to invite everybody to please rise.
yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hu yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hu yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hu yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hu yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Before we begin our Torah service, we have two Divrei Torah. And I'd like to invite Andrea Atkins, followed by Matthew Barile, to share with us some of their words of Torah.
Shabbat Shalom. Our Torah portion, Shlach Lecha, is about a journey to scout out an unknown land. God tells Moses to send emissaries to scout the land of Canaan. Interestingly, according to Rashi, God does not command Moses to do this, but says that Moses must do it for yourself if you want to. Moses sends 12 men, one from each tribe of Israel, to discover the people who live in the land of Canaan and bring back the fruit that grows there. In 40 days, the emissaries come back from their journey with grapes, pomegranates, and figs, and a report that while the land flows with milk and honey and would be a wonderful place to live, the people there are powerful. Moses, Joshua, and Caleb want to follow God's plan to take over this land, but the emissaries are scared to do so and think it would be impossible to fight the Anakites, who they report are giants who already live there. This Torah portion is perfect for the 12 of us, in fact for all 25 of us, in our adult Bnai Mitzvah class, for we too have been on a journey. We could have stayed home on Monday nights to spend time with our spouses, read bedtime stories to our children, prepare for the arrival of grandchildren, review choreography for a production of The Wiz, or knit with our roommates. Instead, we each made a decision for ourselves that we would like to venture out to discover the unknown. We arrived at this journey from different starting points. Representing different generations, some of us did not have the opportunity for a bat mitzvah during childhood. Others converted to Judaism in adulthood, and one of us even convinced her parents at the tender age of 11 or 12 that she would have a deeper and more meaningful Jewish experience attending Jewish summer camp than attending religious school. And it was not me. For almost 40 weeks, while learning and studying together, we forged bonds of friendship with each other. Our journey was successful because we supported each other every step of the way. What a wonderful journey it has been. We were nervous and hesitant, but excited as we started off in September. Most, if not all of us, were convinced that we would never be able to overcome the giant task of learning Hebrew so that we could learn to read from the Torah. And yet, look at us now. The knowledge that we have learned about Israel, the history of Judaism, and its theology are our grapes, pomegranates, and figs. All of us conquered our fears of Hebrew and discovered in that knowledge a land of milk and honey. We can now read prayers during services in Hebrew and have studied the meanings of many of them, taking us one step further on our lifelong journeys for deeper understanding of prayers, Torah, and God. This journey would not have been possible without our own Moses, Joshua, and Caleb. Thank you to Rabbi Rick, Valia, and Marissa for guiding us along the way. We appreciate your dedication to us and the countless hours you have spent with us over the last 9 months. Thank you also to all of our families and friends who were there for us throughout our studies. Like that journey long ago, our task was daunting, but we were successful because of our hard work and your support. I would like to add a couple more thank yous. Thank you, of course, to my husband Chase for being home with the kids on Monday nights. To my parents, I did not have to be raised in a religious household to know that I was Jewish. Thank you for instilling a sense of Jewishness in me and for your immediate and strong support when I told you that I was embarking on this adventure. Thank you also to my daughter Bentley for helping me as I struggled to learn Hebrew last fall. and to my daughter Aiden for being my Hebrew practice partner all year as we learned together. And a very special thank you to Ruth and Peter Weisman. You were an integral part of my Jewish experience as a child. For years, you set an extra place at your Seder table for me and made room in your car to take me to services for you, with you. You taught my older daughter when she was at preschool at the JCC North, and if I had had it my way, you would have taught my younger daughter too. Your actions and kindness helped me learn what it meant to be Jewish. You sparked the curiosity that has led me to this moment today. I'm honored that you're here to celebrate with me tonight. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Okay. What a fascinating parsha. God wants Moses to send emissaries to the land ahead of them, but why doesn't Moses just ask God flat out, what is the land like? It would certainly not have been the first time that Moses would have questioned God's intentions. And furthermore, why do the Israelites have to wait 40 days to see what God could explain to them right then and there? Meanwhile, they become despaired, but we all know that in the end, a beautiful destination awaits and good things are to come. I think there's complete legitimacy in experiencing something for yourself. One question that I've been asked a number of times by different people that I've met is during this adult Bnai Mitzvah course has been, why did you decide to do it? And I have no definitive answer, but a number of answers. I became a Jew last year in July when I went through the mikvah. During my conversion process, Rabbi Kellner suggested to me a number of times that I check out birthright. I didn't think I would be eligible because I turned 27 in November, but a friend of mine who works for the Federation said, we're going to see what we can do. I heard on a Friday that I could go to Israel on a Sunday. I chose the second option to leave the Sunday after. I needed time to get my passport expedited, and I needed to digest. I came back from an incredible, amazing experience, and then this option to join the Adult Bnai Mitzvah course came up. I didn't enroll right away, and instead later asked Rabbi Kellner if there was still room in the course, and he actually said, I'm surprised you didn't sign up. But yes, there's room. So why did I sign up? I wanted to continue to grow as a Jew. 10 months later. As a Jew by choice, I wanted to have the experience of something I didn't have growing up. And furthermore, I just love this Jewish tradition that we're all a part of, and saw this as an excellent chance to continue down my own Jewish journey. At the same time, I've had the marvelous opportunity to meet and form community with inspiring individuals. We've studied together and learned together, and I'm positive that we've each experienced what our Jewish community offers us, and that there is such of an expansive ways to grow and deepen our connections with our tradition. Each of us has been proactive in finding meaning in our lives and our Jewish journeys, and we're walking away completely and utterly enriched. It hasn't been seamlessly easy, as you've heard a number of times. It's been a major time commitment. It's demanded lots of our attention, and it's strained our focus. Just ask any one of us about the Hebrew study. But in the end, we've come to this place where we realize what an incredible 9 months of study this has been, and in a way, we've become our own emissaries to see just how good it is. Thank you, Rabbi Rick, Valia, and Marissa, for such an incredible experience. Shabbat Shalom.
What Matthew didn't tell you was he sent me an email on the Friday that I was in Israel and said, Rabbi, I need my conversion certificate to send so that they know that I am indeed Jewish. I said, Matthew, I'm in Tel Aviv. I will get it as soon as I return home. And so, of course, here we are. I'd like to invite everyone now to turn in your prayer books to page 244. And I'd like to invite you all to please rise for Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of the Torah.
כמוך ואלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך. מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום.
This scroll is the secret of our people's lives from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. And at this moment, we are now going to pass the Torah through each of the arms of the members of our adult Bnai Mitzvah class. We will perhaps recall the first class, in which we, the 25 of us, gathered here right on this spot, in which we passed the Torah to one another, literally receiving Torah. I asked each person to share one word of hope that they wanted to experience throughout this journey. And so perhaps now at this moment you might recall the word that you shared. If not, it's okay. I don't remember the words you shared individually, so I don't have them written down in the back. But now we pass the Torah scroll through the arms of our class. You may be seated. Before we read from Parshat Shalach Lecha, we have two more Divrei Torah that our members of our class will share. And so I'd like to first invite Wendy Klein, followed by Liz Shafran.
Shabbat Shalom. Much like the 12 leaders of the tribes of Israel who had to see for themselves instead of just believing what Adonai had told them about how bountiful and fruitful the land of Israel was, I had to experience Israel for myself in order to comprehend her rich history, beauty, and power. My trip to Israel last summer motivated me to strengthen my personal connection to Judaism and to work towards accomplishing one of my bucket list items of becoming a bat mitzvah. Our Torah portion tonight tells us about the 12 tribal leaders who were sent to spy on the Promised Land. Of these 12, only 2, Caleb and Joshua, reported that although the land did flow with milk and honey and was inhabited by powerful people, the Israelites could overcome and even conquer the new land if they had faith in God. The 10 others chose to focus on the negatives of the situation and had a limited vision of the future by not having faith in their ability to work hard and to overcome adversity. These 10 incited fear in the Israelite community and tried to convince everyone to return to Egypt, where even though they were slaves, their lives were predictable and they would not have to take the risks of moving forward into this new land. Ultimately, the Israeli community did not return to Egypt but chose to forge ahead, even though God told them that only their children would ultimately reach the promised land. Both of these schools of thought, having faith and believing that you can work to conquer a difficult situation, and being overcome with self-doubt and wanting to return to a way of life that, if not always more comfortable, is at least predictable, are familiar to me in my own journey towards a deeper appreciation of my religion and the challenge of becoming a bat mitzvah. Truthfully, I wasn't really sure I was capable of mastering enough of the Hebrew language to ever be able to read from the Torah. This was a daunting task for me. Despite my initial uncertainty about my journey ahead, I knew that the hard work and many hours of study would ultimately yield some amazing discoveries. This was a journey that I was deeply compelled to embark on, and I also just trusted in my faith and in my innate stubbornness that I would succeed and that the results would be remarkable in so many ways. Possibly Caleb and Joshua had similar feelings as they were scouting in Israel. This year has been a stepping-off point to a new chapter in my personal as well as in my spiritual life. I would like to thank Rabbi Rick and Marissa for providing such a solid background in the teachings of Judaism. Your classes have been inspiring and thought-provoking and have given me a new and deeper appreciation of Judaism. Thank you to Valya for the many, many hours that you devoted to our class, ensuring that each one of us had the confidence and skills that would allow us to become a Bnai Mitzvah. You are an extraordinary teacher. Thank you also to my family. I think my husband is, if not more excited than I am about me being up here, so thank you, Jimmy. Thank you also to my sons, Will, Harry, and Jack, for staying beside me this entire year. I love you all. So please, remember to have faith and to forge ahead. It turned out pretty well for Caleb, Joshua, and the Israelites, as well as for myself. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. This week's Torah portion describes the expedition by representatives from the 12 tribes into the land that we call Israel. By now, you're pretty familiar with how that goes, so I'll skip that part. But I do want to talk about 2 of the scouts of the 12 that did the expedition, named Caleb and Joshua. They defy the reports of the other 12 that there are well-protected cities, that there are gigantic people out there, that there's no way that they can be overcome. All 12 scouts witnessed the same agriculture, the same people, and the same geography. Yet 2 scouts purport a very different course of action. So how do we explain this difference? Our only textual clue is Joshua's statement to the people. If pleased with us, the Eternal will bring us into this land. Joshua and Caleb have something that others do not, and that is faith. They are not seeking evidence or proof from what they witnessed on their scouting trip. They are relying on something that is not visible to the human eye. A belief in the covenant with God, a belief in the covenant that God has made with the Jewish people. The phrase shalach lecha, which is the instruction that is given to the scouts, translates as send for yourself. The expedition seems to be an external one, with the scouts physically venturing out to an unknown area so that they could check out things with their own eyes. If we look further and follow the literal implications of this phrase, it suggests that the scouts go on an additional journey. That is, an internal one, where they can explore their own personal topography. The outcome of this for 10 of the scouts was doubt and fear. For Caleb and Joshua, it was a renewed sense of faith in what God had promised. There is no doubt that it must have been hard for Caleb and Joshua to be the voice of hope when they are surrounded by so many dissenting people. And yet, they persisted. Eventually, the people did listen, and so must we. Sometimes it is hard to hear the voices that encourage us to believe in the things that we cannot see, or reach for what might seem like impossible solutions for impossible problems. Especially now, in this digital age, when it's so easy to criticize others without seeing them face to face, when there are so many voices that crowd our daily conversations, voices that may be friends, family, coworkers, social media, and even marketing. Sometimes it can be very hard to identify and decipher messages of hope and faith. Let us not lose our ability to hear them. Sometimes this voice is our own and comes from within. We just need to listen to it. Surround yourselves with the Calebs and Joshuas of the world. We need these voices because they provide hope and faith when others denounce possibilities. I personally feel blessed and grateful that I have people in my life who have provided me with a strong sense of faith and hope. My first teachers and role models were my own parents, who instilled in me a belief in God and a strong sense of caring for others and our earth. My husband, Andy, and our 2 children, Max and Sylvia, reaffirm this every day. They have such optimism and a sense of adventure about our journeys together. I am surrounded by my family and friends, and in that same category as friends, my classmates, who are supportive and always willing to pass on an encouraging word. And finally, thank you to Rabbi Rick, Marissa, and Valia, who have always had faith that one day we would stand on this bima and read Torah as Bnai Mitzvah.
Disappear. I'm coming back. The Torah blessings, forgot my prayer book, can be found in our prayer books on page 250. And as we've mentioned, we are going to be reading from Parashat Shalach Lecha, from the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verses 16 through Numbers 14, chapter 14, verse 7, on your lovely green sheet. The English is on one side, the Hebrew on the other. I invite you to follow along. I'd like to invite Valia to serve as our Gabayit. And I'd like to invite the members of our adult Bnei Mitzvah class to call them to Torah for the honor of the Aliyah. I'd like to invite those who are called to Torah and read Torah so beautifully last week to please rise as well. Ya'amdu hakita shel Bnei Mitzvah la'aliyah leTorah. Baruch Adonai HaMorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
like to ask everyone to save the Yasher Koach until after the second blessing of the Aliyah so that each of our Torah readers can continue to read one after the other.
Ele shemot hanashim asher shalach Moshe latur et haaretz vayikra Moshe leHoshea ben Nun Yehoshua vayishlach otam Moshe latur et Eretz Canaan, Vayomer Alehem, Aluze Vanegev, Valetem et Hahar.
Uritem et haaretz mahi ve'et ha'am hayoshev aleha hechazak hu harafem hameat hu imrav uma haaretz asher hu yoshev ba hatova hi imra'a Uma he'arim asher hu yoshev bahena habemachanim im bemivtzarim.
Uma haaretz hashmanahi Imrazah Hayesh ba'etz im ayin Vehitazaktem ulekatem me pri haaretz Vahayamim yameh bikorei anavim V'yaluhu v'yaturu et haaretz mimidbartzin adreho levo hamat.
Vaya'alu v'negev vayavo ad Hebron v'sham achiman sheshai v'tamai yilidei ha'anach v'Hebron sheva shanim nifneta lifnei So'an Mitzrayim Vayavo'u ad Nachal Eshkol Vayichratu Misham Zmora Ve'eshkol Anavim Echad Vayasauhu Bamot Bishnayim Umin Harmonim Umin Hata'enim.
Lamakom hahu kara nahal eshkol al odot ha-eshkol asher kartu Misham Bnei Yisrael Vayashuvu Mitur Haaretz Miketz Arba'im Yom.
Sheve el Aharon ve'el kol adat Bnei Yisrael el mibar parahan kadesha vayashivu otam davar vet kol ha'edah vayarum et pri haaretz vayasapru lo vayomru banu el haaretz asher shlaktanu v'gam zavat halav udvash hi v'zepirya.
Efes ki atam hayoshev ba'aretz v'he'arim bezurot gadolot me'od v'gam yeledei hanak ra'inu sham Amalek yoshev be'eretz ha'negev V'hahiti, v'hayevosi, v'haemori, Yoshev bahar, v'hakanaani, Yoshev al hayam, ve'al yad hayaden. Vayahas Kalev et ha'am el Moshe vayomer alo nale vayarashnu ota ki yahol nuchal la v'ha'anashim asher aluhu imo amru lo nuchal la'alot el ha'am ki hazak hu mimenu.
Vayitziu diba haaretz asher taru ota el bnei Yisrael le'emor haaretz asher avarnu va latur ota eretz okelet yoshveha hi v'chol ha'am asher ra'inu betoka anshe midol v'sham ra'inu et hanefelim b'nei anak min hanefelim v'anehi ve'enenu kahagavim ve'chen hayinu ve'enehem.
Vatisa kol ha'edah vayitnu et kolam vayivku ha'am balayla hahu vayilonu al Moshe ve'al Aharon kol bnei Yisrael vayomru alehem kol ha'edah lumatnu be'eretz Mitzrayim o bamidbar hazeh lumatnu.
V'lama Adonai meviotanu el haaretz hazot linpol b'cherev nashenu v'tapenu yiyu lavas halo tov lanu shuv mitzrayma vayamru ish el achiv nitna rosh v'nashuva mitzrayma vayipol Moshe ve'Aharon al panehem livnei kol kahal adat b'nei Yisrael.
Yehoshua bin Nun v'Chalev ben Yefuneh min hatarim et haaretz karu bigdehem vayomru el kol adat b'nei Yisrael le'amur haaretz asher avarnu v'laturota tova haaretz me'od me'od.
Now, in the presence of our Torah, we turn to page 253. We turn our thoughts and our prayers to friends and loved ones in our lives who are in need of healing on this Shabbat. And just a few verses after what we read, what our students have just read, we read that the Israelites wished to return to Egypt, for they found struggles in the wilderness. What does it mean to pray for healing? There are some who say healing, wholeness, means to accept and become whole, become one with the newness of our journey. And that we might wish to go back. Because even if what came before us was like Egypt, we still might think it could be better than what we are experiencing now. For perhaps what happened in the past is always better than what could happen in the future because we know it, we're familiar with it. And so, as we pray for those dear ones in our lives, along with those who we mentioned silently in our hearts, we pray for healing on this Shabbat, for Ruth Ann Blank, Priscilla Bressler, Cheyenne Cates, Esther Schmelnick, Wendy Curette, Bobby Denny, Terry Howard, Ethan Kadish, Lauren Mandel, Kimberly Pusel, Sandra Friedman, Mike Krasnoff. We pray that each of the names we've called aloud and all those who we note in our hearts find a speedy recovery, find wholeness, find a way to accept the moment in their journey. For that, perhaps, is what it means to pray for healing. Say Baruch Atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, healer of the sick. Mishaberach, page 253.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor habracha Imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor habracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Now I'd like to invite everyone to please rise. We pray a prayer to lift the Torah. I'd like to invite Marissa Freiberg to help dress the Torah to have the honor of Galilah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. לי 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 לי
Remain standing and turn in our prayer books to page 256 as we prepare to return the Torah to the Ark. Members of our class are going to open the Ark doors. I just don't remember who.
It's chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomchecha meushar derachecha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu kekedem.
You may be seated. One might find a debate today that did not necessarily happen in the days of the Talmud. That debate might begin with a student asking a teacher, is it more difficult, Rabbi, to become a bar or bat mitzvah when one is 13 or when one is Well, the rabbi might say, if you are 13, there are changes happening to you. They call it hormones. And you have to go from soccer to baseball to Hebrew, back to soccer and back to baseball, or dance, or whatever, running, whatever it might be. Too many homework, many things, many responsibilities that you have at 13. But if you're you might have to take your 13-year-old to all of the previously mentioned activities. You have to learn Hebrew long after the scientists tell us that language learning is fit for your brain. Imagine the debate could go on, but the word you might find to answer the debate is teku. It's a word that this is how the rabbis do respond to debates. In the Talmud, they say, teku, let it stand. There's really no resolution to such a debate. Each has its own challenges. Each has its own difficulties, and each has its own blessings. I want to share a story I did not share last week, and I think I shared it with the class at some point on the year, but I want to share it in the context of what some call process theology. We didn't cover this in the Finding God class that we had back on some day when there was snow on the ground. Process theology is a theology that says we don't necessarily know what the outcome of our actions are going to be. But somewhere along the road, an action that you've done or have been part of or experienced years ago might affect your journey. And I think for our 25 adult Bnai Mitzvah students, the journey has been very much about them as individuals and them as a collective group. And I don't know if any of you have thought about what might come of this experience in the future. For me to be personal for a moment, I'm a rabbi today, perhaps because my mom became an adult bat mitzvah at the age of 29. You see, she was given the option, do you want to go to religious school or learn how to play guitar when she was a kid? You know what she chose by the fact that she became adult bat mitzvah. But she was motivated to do so because she wanted to say Kaddish for my grandfather who had passed away. And I think it was her dedication to learning that started her on a journey in which our temple topics, not tikva topics, was done on our dining room table, Arlene. So that we didn't see our dining room table for a number of years when I was a kid either. I remember that very well. It was her dedication to learning, her inclination to join the choir and serve on the board, and her dedication to be involved in a synagogue that had an impact on me. And so perhaps for each of you, who knows what the impact that your experience in this class, in this moment, in 2014, might have for the future. We'll look back, we might reflect and say, it was indeed this moment, this journey. We set off on our journey months ago. The first text we studied in our class was from Parashat Lech Lecha. Go forth. Go to yourself. God's words to Avram. How fitting it perhaps is that we conclude this journey at Parashat Shalach Lecha. And what happens when you teach your students so many things that they've taken all already what you had rethought about saying tonight? But that's okay. There's always something else. That's why you have to keep coming to class. Shalach lecha, it means literally to send yourself. And as Andrea reminded us, do it for yourself if you want to. I'm not commanding you to do it. Because in the book of Deuteronomy, why did this happen? The Israelites came to Moses and said, let me come back for a second. In the book of Deuteronomy, which is a retelling of the entire story of the Jewish people, their wanderings from Egypt into the wilderness as they arrive standing at the Jordan, you'll notice if you study Deuteronomy closely that there are some differences between the other things. Here's one of them. Is that when in Deuteronomy it says, the Israelites came to Moses and said, Moses, send us some scouts to the land. Moses turned to God. What do I do, God? God said, I've already told them it is a good land. I told them I'd take them to a land that's flowing with milk and honey. If they want to do it for themselves. Each of you did this for yourselves. Someone might have invited you. I don't know if someone said you should do it or commanded you to do it. Maybe that was the case. But the truth of the matter is you each did this for yourself. And I think you also did it to yourselves too, actually. You did it for yourself so that something in you would change. You didn't know what that change would be. But here you are looking back. You shared with us the impact. You shared with us the changes. And so we find ourselves now at this moment where we scout out the future. We send our own Yehoshua and our own Caleb into the future. In the very beginning of the verses we read, we learned that Yehoshua's name was originally Hoshea. Hoshea ben Nun, but we know him as Yehoshua. And the first book of the prophets is Yehoshua. Why do we have a name change? Why the Yud? The Yud signifies that Yehoshua would have God's presence upon him. Yehoshua would bring about some sense of salvation, some sense of redemption, some sense of ease and comfort to the Jewish people as he led them into the promised land. And Caleb, in Hebrew, Kalev, like the heart. And so each of us needs to find that sense of salvation upon our own hearts. And perhaps in this moment last week and this week, we found that sense of comfort tonight. Not only our individuals, but our community gathered here both weeks as well, as we treasured this gift of learning. This story is a challenge to Israel, to the people Israel. Are we up to the task? I think over the last 2 Shabbatot we've seen the gift and the blessing of 25 individuals who are indeed up to the task, who perhaps like the Israelites didn't think they could do it, who perhaps like the Israelites were scared to stand up and read Torah. It's not an easy thing. Even if you've been reading Hebrew for years and years and years, it's still scary. This is about the challenge. And you all have taken it. You have succeeded at it. And you've proven to yourselves that you could do something that you previously thought was impossible. And perhaps in our congregation tonight, there is someone who to themselves is thinking, I think that's impossible. But tonight and last week were 25 answers that said it is possible. And so whether you are a member of our congregation or you are visiting from out of town, I said this last week, here's my repeat. This is an invitation for you to do what you previously thought might have been impossible. We're going to offer this journey again. And so when it comes around, find yourself an opportunity to say, I'm going to sign up and take this course. And if you're visiting with us, go to your rabbi or your cantor or your educator and say, I want to become an adult bar or bat mitzvah. What do I need to do? This journey is a journey of the collective experience of 25. Yet each individual lifted up God's presence for themselves and for all of us tonight. About Caleb, the Torah says that Caleb had a different spirit within him. Caleb could raise up God's presence. Caleb could lift up the people. And so what we learn from our experience together is that when we work together, when we act as one community, one kehillah, one kitah, we together inherit the promised land, the gift of giving the Torah, the gift of receiving the Torah that you gave and received to us in each of the last 2 weeks. As we did last week, we have some gifts and some certificates for each of the members of our class. And there's an additional gift that wasn't given last week. It's for everybody, though. They're not just the group tonight that's getting it. There's a reason we didn't give it last week. It's because it's a booklet that contains all of the speeches of our class. And having given it last week, you would have been reading ahead to all of what they were about to say. But that wouldn't have been fair. There's one other thing I want to mention before we do the gifts. Because when the class became so large, I said, we're going to split it. But you have to promise to each other, and to me, that you're going to come on both nights. And the only people who could not come last week, but are here tonight, or could not come this week, but were here last week, are not here, or weren't here last week because they were away. And it shows that this really is one group. And how much luckier and blessed are we that we could extend this celebration over 2 Shabbat weekends. So we are going to call upon the members of our class, and I'm going to tell you right now, they're not in alphabetical order tonight. That's intentional. But I'm not going to tell you why. That's interesting. I love that. Tara Rosen. Did you reorganize? Wendy Klein. Now they're really out of order. I'll be rejoicing shortly. I'm just going to do this. Sharon Chelnick. Evie Freeman. Susan Pomerantz. Joyce Sabger. Elizabeth Shaffrin. Patricia Upchurch. Nancy Schwartz. Andrea Atkins. Arlene Brilliant Levy. And Matthew Barile. And as I mentioned, we have copies of the booklets for each of you. I'll give them to you shortly. And as I mentioned a moment ago, our journey began with words of study in Parshat Lech Lecha. And we are blessed, very blessed, to still be able to cherish the memory of Debbie Friedman whenever we sing these words, who gave us the beauty of this melody. So I invite us to turn in our prayer books to page 341 as we hear these words of blessing.
Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Lechi lach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all will praise your name. Lechi lach, to the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, lechi lach. You shall be a blessing, and you are a blessing. You shall be a blessing, lechi lach.
Shabbat Shalom. If you haven't guessed, my name is Josh Reinecke. I was bar mitzvah last weekend. And the reason I say if you haven't guessed, if you look at the program, there's a grand total of 2 male names on that list. And since Matthew is sitting up here, it narrows your choices a bit. I have the honor this evening to deliver some words of thanks from the entire class. First of all, thank goodness we are all done. So, yeah. I also want to thank all of you who did come this evening and to the many of you who were also here last week. It means a great deal to all of us in the class to have this much support from all of our friends, our families, and obviously our fellow congregants. And last week, I also thanked specifically myself personally the 23 families who allowed me to spend so much time with their mothers and wives, and I will repeat that this week. Because again, spending every Monday night as one of two men, not counting the rabbi, in a room full of 23 intelligent, thoughtful, funny, and beautiful women is really not a bad way to spend an evening. However, in this vast crowd of people here this evening, there is one person that all of us in class have thanked repeatedly, and we will do it one more time, because we owe an enormous debt of gratitude, and that person is Valia Bergelson. Valia took on to what to many would likely seem impossible. She took the 25 of us, all adults, and in about 9 months get us all ready to read the Torah in front of a crowd of hundreds. It should be noted that many of us had never had a Hebrew lesson before we started, and Valia tried to get as much Hebrew knowledge into us as she possibly could, including several evenings where I know we all walked out of that room with a full brain and eyes as big as saucers. And to do it, she met with us weekly here, and as the weeks went on, and has been noted previously, she opened her schedule to meet with us after hours, on weekends, at her own home, and anywhere else we needed to meet. She truly is the single biggest reason all of us were here last week and tonight and able to read our Torah portions as wonderfully as we all did. Valia, if you could please join me again. At last week's Bnai Mitzvah service, I presented a gift card to Valia from the entire class that was to be used for the purchase of a tree for her yard. We truly do hope that you will sit outside and look at your tree that you have not yet planted for years to come as that tree grows. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
However, as has already been noted, there were other teachers with us, so I would like the rabbi and Marissa to join me. And again, last week, I gave them gifts. They did not return them to me for me to give them back to them this week. However,
We like to keep the gifts
they
that we
did,
get.
I know. So the rabbi conveniently let me bring this up here again. This is a class picture that was taken of all 25 of us. And as you will note, around the picture, it is signed by each of us from this class. So each of these three wonderful teachers have received this picture from us to hang on their walls. There is one more thing. We did not just give them pictures and words of thanks. A donation has been made to the temple in honor of all three of these teachers that will be used to help replace this Torah reading table. And I want everyone here to know that 25 adults came together to see this as a significant enough experience that the donation that was given to the congregation was a significant amount that will be forever used in memoriam of the replacement of this table. So for all of us in the adult Bnai Mitzvah class, thank you to our wonderful teachers, and thank you to all of you for coming. Shabbat Shalom.
You go get it. Go get it. I'll start. Go get it. I'll start. So, first of all, you saw evidence tonight of why I like a new reading table. So I want to say from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the congregation that for generations people will be able to read from the Torah just as you all have. And so in many ways you are giving the gift of Torah to the future of our congregation, so we thank you. I'd like to invite Valia to come back up. I know she has some words that she wanted to say to each of you. And so...
Thank you. I know that everybody thinks now more about the snack, right? I will do it fast. Okay. Dear friends, Mazal Tov to all of you on becoming Bnei Mitzvah. As your Hebrew teacher, I want to tell you, you were a fabulous class of 25 students. While helping you prepare for this great day, I realized that you were indeed grown-ups, and I was tremendously happy to watch you enjoying your studies. I was delighted to see you approach this work with interest, eagerness, and pride. As the Hebrew saying goes, "Lihyot lerosh," to be at the head, "velo lezanav," and not at the tail. Your hard work, dedication, and responsibility led to wonderful results, and all of us are witnesses of your great success. During the last 8 months, because I started in October, you were my real and helpful partners. Thank you. I am very proud of all of you. I would also like to thank all of you for your generous gift to me, a beautiful tree that I will plant next to my house. This tree will always remind me of our wonderful journey. It wasn't easy, but it was highly rewarding teamwork, and I'd like to thank you all again, as well as Rick and Marisa, for making this important event a huge success. Mazel Tov to all of us. I love you. I brought 25 zinnia plants and put them on the table at the hall. When you will go home, please take a plant home. Thank you.
We now prepare to conclude our service. We turn to page 282 in the middle of the page for the words of Aleinu, and I'd like to invite members of our adult Bnei Mitzvah class to lead us in the words of Aleinu. As I said, the middle of page 282 and then turning to page 287. Please rise. You may be seated. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. On this Shabbat, we remember Gloria Albert, beloved grandmother of Jennifer Sandro, who was laid to rest this week. We also remember Elliot Boxerbaum, beloved husband of Debbie Boxerbaum, who was also laid to rest this week. In the Shabbat, we recall the yahrzeit, those who were taken from us at this season in years past. We remember Daniel Armstrong, Evelyn Bookman, Lillian Cohen, Miriam Dritz, Joseph Jacoby. Remember Elsie Lowenstein, Marilyn Phillips, Zoltan Radnay. Remember Helen Schneer, Louis Silverman, Israel Stiskin. We remember Samuel Waxman. If I mispronounced a name, or if you would like to add a name to those whom we are remembering on this Shabbat, I invite you to share that name with us at this time. The memories of all of them are with us as we turn in our prayer books to page 294. And I'd like to invite members of our class to lead us in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, and I'd like to invite everyone to please rise.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabba, v'alma divra kirutei v'yamli malkutei, v'chayehon v'yomehon v'chayeh v'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman karib v'imru amen. Shehei shmei Rabba v'merach le'olam v'layim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitar v'yitarman v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei, v'yishal, v'yiriku. Ve'elam yinkol, v'yirchata, v'shirata. Tushbechata, v'nechamata. Da'amiran, de'alma, v'yimru, amen. Shei shlama rabba shemayim. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'romav. Huyaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen.
Turn now in our prayer books as we conclude our service. We turn to page 353. I'd like to invite members of the entire class to join us up here on the bima. So those who were called to the Torah last week, as we come and we make room for everybody. It's a big bima. This is why we built the bima so big, so we could accommodate a class of 25. You didn't know that, did you? Page 353, and together we wish all of these wonderful individuals and this entire group a mazel tov for all of the work that they did, and a heartfelt yasher koach to each and every one of you. We conclude again, page 353, with the words of Od Yavo Shalom.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam. Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo, Od Yavo, Od Yavo ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, 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 salam. Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Oyavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. We join together on page 5 in the words of our Shabbat evening Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon
Hilanu Zikaron lemaseh bereishit Ki hu yom tehillah lemikrae kodesh Zecher letziat Mitzrayim Kivanu b'chata ve'otanu kidashta mikol amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim. We join together in Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom, everyone. You all get the first shot of the olive. Come and get it.